not from mud, but from bricks. And they would gamble everything on it, including the future of all China. In the 16th century, China's Ming dynasty began to construct the Great Wall, familiar today. A vast brick edifice. The workforce included soldiers, but also forced labor, convicts and debtors. The construction cost the lives of countless people. Altogether, the Ming walls took around 100 years to build, stretched over 8,800 kilometers, and used billions of bricks. But extraordinary new scientific research has shown the secret of its success isn't only in the bricks. It's hidden in the mortar. Decoding it starts with an ancient Chinese legend.
The mortar is very special, very bright white, and in fact some of the earliest walkers on the wall asked local Chinese, why is it so white? And the locals said, oh, that's because the bones of the deceased builders was ground up.
Many Chinese people grew up with the popular legend of Lady Meng Jiangnu, whose husband died building the wall. The legend says that when she made the walls collapse, they revealed human bone.
From that time on, it's believed that the name of the wall in Chinese, Wan Li Chang Cheng, became a death knell, a place of no return.
To many, the wall meant death. The Ming walls have withstood attacks and earthquakes for centuries. But if they're not really held together by skeletons, what makes it so effective?
这么斜的这个面，但是这里还是保持这么好，说明这个灰浆非常的好。
Bing Zhenjiang is a chemistry professor, pioneering the study of ancient building materials.
再取点其他的。
He's come with his postgraduate students to collect samples of the 400-year-old Ming mortar. In order to help restore and preserve the walls, he wants to discover its precise chemical composition.
很多目前正在大量的原来前10多年还用水泥在修长城，修复它，就给它带来很多的弊端。我们能够用原来的材料来修复长城。
The main ingredient of the ancient mortar is lime. The challenge is to find the extra magic ingredient that made it so resilient. Once the ancient mortar sample is pulverized, it's mixed with water and then heated. Adding iodine shows the mortar contains starch, an organic substance. And further tests reveal the Ming derived this vital ingredient from a most surprising source.
刚才板场玉长城灰浆的样本的结果出来了，可以看出它是呈棕红色，说明它含有糯米成分。
The magic ingredient is sticky rice. The walls have been kept standing not by human bones, but by something that can be found in most kitchens. Pictures from a scanning electron microscope show how the rice binds the mortar. It has to contain exactly 3% rice to be most effective. Rigorous tests show it's highly shake-resistant and stronger than modern mortar.
我们认为糯米灰浆是中国古代的一项重要发明。糯米的加入使得灰浆的强度等等性能都大大的改善。这种糯米灰浆确实能够使得中国长城千年不倒。
But however ingenious the mortar is, it's nothing without bricks. Ming bricks are very big and allow unskilled workers to create vast walls quickly and to a uniform design. 7.5 meters tall and 9 meters wide. They're also uniquely stamped with their manufacturing details to ensure quality control. And they're still a useful source of evidence.
This particular one is telling us the year in which the brick was made. Wanli is the name of the emperor. Qinian is the 7th year of his reign. So 1578, this brick was made.
But these epic fortifications required an almost endless supply of bricks. Creating them started a mass production revolution that would change China forever. And here in the remote village of Banchongyu, the legacy of that revolution can still be found. The 16th century Ming walls rise from the mountain peaks. The work of building the wall drew thousands of workers and their families here. And today their descendants still live in the shadow of the wall. People like Go Hua Shu.
这条就是我小时候呀，我听我奶奶说，我们这是修长城的后裔。
Mr. Shu believes that his ancestors moved from southern China around 450 years ago to build the original Ming walls.
我们到那代的是25代，是跟戚继光修长城过来的。
Mr. Shu has also made an amazing discovery in the village. Over 200 original Ming kilns, a clear indication of the vast scale of the manufacturing operation that went on here. Today he continues his ancestors' work.
咱把这块，这个都行了，把这都给它砍了。
And is in charge of restoring a section of the Ming Wall for the Chinese government. He's even built a working Ming kiln to learn more about the techniques of his forefathers.
这个砖窑是一共3米高，4米半深。
All they needed to make bricks was sandy soil and water, packed into a uniform frame. Once shaped, they're left to dry. Ming bricks are big, about 4 times the size of modern house bricks, weighing in at a hefty 10.5 kilograms.
漏着装得了。好，老板呐，哎，把砖摆上以后，都封好以后，我们是点窑，一般是烧3天3宿。
Before the kiln is lit, a small blessing to Mr. Shu's wall-building ancestors seems appropriate. The fire quickly spreads beneath the bricks. The smoke shows it's taking hold. The kiln has to reach 1,000 degrees centigrade to make the bricks rock hard. It's a scene reminiscent of over 400 years ago, when the Ming Wall was first built.
I think if we were back in the 1570s here, we would see all around us an enormous amount of industrial scale activity. There's a lot of smoke, there's a lot of pollution. It was a massive effort. So we can definitely say this was a military industrial operation.
The Ming Empire mobilized millions to create their vast edifice. A line of defense, a base for attack, and the longest cemetery on Earth. Professor Jiang has brought his new sticky rice mortar, so Mr. Xu can discover if it helps restoration work using original Ming bricks. Both history and chemistry suggest the sticky rice mortar will again hold the wall together for centuries. The Ming dynasty's capacity to produce an endless supply of bricks and magic mortar helped to create the strongest and longest brick wall in history. But did the Great Wall ultimately succeed in fulfilling its purpose, defending China? Or did it fail? The big question remaining about the Ming Great Wall is whether it's a military marvel that held back invasion from the north, or a grand and costly folly that ultimately failed to protect China. The Ming Wall stretched from its mighty desert stronghold across the savannah and up to the mountains, around the Ming capital, Beijing, before reaching the Dragon's Head, a barrier against the terrifying threat from the north, the Mongols.
This wall is the result of blood, sweat, and fears. And this was built to stop the Mongols invading again.
The Ming walls look impregnable, with strong brick battlements and the finest military engineering. Attacking armies faced cannon fire, showers of arrows from the high towers, and strong battlements, peppered with mysterious holes.
See this aperture here? It's made for a rock bomb. One of these. This is actually an original rock bomb. This is for throwing. But they were bigger ones that were dropped down here. And about every 4 paces along the wall, you see these bomb doors. They're shaped the same curve as the bomb. So when you drop it through, it holds it steady. You do not want it tumbling over like that. But it's falling straight down like this. So it will hit the ground, bottom first, and detonate it. Because in here, it is packed with gunpowder. Other, much larger ones were landmines, which were linked with tripwires. So as horses and men went over the tripwires, they would operate a system that would set these off. And together with the gunpowder, they would pack in noxious chemicals, chemicals that would burn the eyes, chemicals that would burn the skin. Men at the bottom on horses would be terrified and kept away from this wall.
If any attackers did scale the walls, the Ming troops could barricade themselves into these sturdy watchtowers. There are 1,200 in all.
This great hole in the roof is not dereliction. This is where there would have been a ladder leading from the ground floor to the top story, where 3 or 4 men on active duty during the night would be stationed.
But Genghis Khan, the arch-enemy of the Chinese, had foreseen the wall's greatest weakness.
长城的力量源于其守卫者的勇气。
It was manned. And in the early 1600s, we have a figure that tots up to just over 750,000 soldiers. We're looking at about 115 per kilometre.
750,000 troops is a vast host, a huge drain on national resources.
The wall is a tremendous piece of hardware. It's a fortification. But the performance of the Great Wall, just like a shield, depended on who was holding the shield.
By the 1600s, the Ming defenders faced a double threat. The Mongols had new allies. They'd united with warlords from the east, from Manchuria, the Manchu, and were determined to conquer China. From the 1630s, thousands of Manchu troops assaulted the walls. With the wall in danger of falling, the Ming defenders desperately needed reinforcements, and quickly. And the wall's ingenious and effective design allowed it to double up as a highway. The simplest test of its practicality is a Great Wall race. The red team, Chinese Ming defenders along the wall, and the blue, Manchu invaders across rough country. In the 16th century, when the brick wall was first operational, all the vegetation was removed from the sloping terrain to give the defenders a clear field of fire and to leave the ground a slippery scree.
Oh, the blues are struggling. They're struggling up that slippery slope.
If the Ming reinforcements don't arrive first, the Manchu attackers will be able to reinforce their breach and control more of the wall.
Quicker!
Who got there first could be decisive for holding the wall.
Well done, the winners! Yeah, Navy. Hung Hao! Good, well done, the red team. I wonder where the blues. Ah, the blues coming. Quieter! They're coming gamely up that last hill, puffing and panting. Here they come.
The attackers are about a minute behind.
Well, that's not a huge difference, but it is a difference. Just between two towers, this wall is a useful way of getting men from one tower to another.
For a few decades, the grand brick wall did hold back the Manchu. It would take something extraordinary to breach it. When it finally came, it came from within. In the 17th century, China was in turmoil. The wall had cost more than could be afforded. Then, famine and plague hit. The people starved, as the Ming emperor and his lords did little. In 1644, the Chinese people rose up and took Beijing. The emperor committed suicide, and the country was engulfed in civil war. The Manchu army beyond the Great Wall took advantage of the chaos and attacked in force. The Chinese rebels inside China advanced eastwards, while the Manchu marched west. to where the Ming armies loyal to the dead emperor held the walls.
长城的力量源于其守卫者的勇气。
The Ming general now faced a terrible dilemma. Unite his forces with the Chinese rebels he despised, or make common cause with the Manchu invaders against his own people. He held the fate of China in his hands and opened the wall's gates to the Manchu. In its decisive moment, the wall had remained undefeated, but its open gates rendered it useless. The Manchu now ruled all China. Over the coming decades, they greatly expanded China's borders to the north and west. The walls were no longer a frontier. Unmanned and abandoned, they were left to crumble slowly. The walls were forgotten for nearly 300 years, until the Chinese manned them again in the 1930s, now to hold back the invading Japanese. But defending the wall in an age of total war was largely symbolic.
China was looted and shelled and put to the torch.
After the war, newly communist China stood apart from the rest of the world. The Great Wall represented this isolation. But that began to change in 1972, when US President Richard Nixon made a momentous trip to re-establish relations with the People's Republic of China.
The president sees one symbol of the gulf to be bridged. It is a symbol not only of China's ancient independence, but also of her ancient isolation.
Nixon's visit was the start of the transformation in China's relationship with the world. Once again, the wall symbolized Chinese strength, innovation, and endurance. Sadly, one modern myth simply isn't true.
Recent interviews of astronauts who've flown missions on the International Space Station prove that it's impossible to see it from outer space, halfway to the moon, or from the moon.
Today, the Great Wall remains a marvel, whose ancient secrets are only now being fully understood.
The future of the Great Wall is absolutely in the hands of ordinary Chinese people. This is an immense outdoor museum. People go there and they appreciate its value. The prospects are looking good for a better Great Wall in the 21st century.